India and the United States are inching closer to the timeline to finalize their trade deal. Prime Minister Modi and U.S. President Trump had set the goal of conclusion of talks by the fall of 2025, so that ends in about 3 more months. And as per what sources have told Mint, the talks are progressing well and the deal could be finalized within the timeline. However, while both sides have held 5 rounds of face-to-face talks, the 6th round, which was supposed to start from 25th August, was stalled amid a stalemate over US insistence that India open critical sectors like agriculture, dairy, and GM crops for US products. This at a time when farmers, who are among Trump's key voters, are facing the heat due to the massive tariffs that he's imposed on several countries. Remember, America's goal with India is Mission 500, that is more than doubling total bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030. There was a freeze in the talks after Trump imposed extra tariffs on India for trade in Russian oil. However, talks restarted after the US agreed to visit India on their turf in New Delhi in mid-September. After this, the Indian team visited the United States for negotiations. Now both sides are moving towards signing a comprehensive agreement that will cover nearly every aspect of commerce, from tariff reduction to easing non-tariff barriers to the US eyeing an expansion into India's energy market. As per Mint sources, the pact will cover key sectors like defense, energy goods trade, technology, space and atomic energy, but issues such as patents and certain regulatory matters will stay outside its scope. It will also include service and investment flows while addressing procedural barriers that businesses face in accessing each other's markets. This at a time when India's exports to the US actually increased 18% year-on-year between April to August, from $34.21 billion in FY25 in this period to $40.35 billion now. Imports also grew by 8.5% from $19.91 billion to $21.61 billion. This means that the bilateral trade between India and US actually grew 14% despite the tensions which kicked in midway. However, India's merchandise exports to the United States, which is its largest trading partner, fell by a massive 22.2% from $8.8 billion to $6.9 billion between May and August 2025, according to a new report. US tariffs on Indian goods rose from 10% in early August to 25% from 7th August and finally to a record 50% by the end of the month. And since the extremely high tariffs have now kicked in, the deal with the United States is critically important for labor-intensive sectors like textiles, gems and jewelry, leather products, agri-products and shrimp, because these are the sectors that face significant threats. Now the US has asked India to give an assurance, preferably in writing, that it will taper its purchases of Russian oil and boost imports of American crude before a trade deal between the two nations can be finalized. Even as India negotiates, exporters have started diversifying their goods to different markets like China, UAE, Netherlands, Singapore, Hong Kong and Australia, among others. This will also help offset the impact of US tariffs. As per the Commerce Ministry's trade data for August 2025, exports to China climbed 22.4%, shipments to the Netherlands rose 17.9%, to UAE rose 23.4% and to Hong Kong rose 62.5%. Other notable gains came from Italy, which imported 15.7% more Indian goods. Exports also rose to South Africa, Nepal and Bangladesh. We'll keep tracking this story closely. For all these news and updates, keep watching Mint.